The studio was filled with Ellen's usual Friday afternoon warmth as she moved through the audience during her beloved Getting to Know You segment. But when 22-year-old Emma Rodriguez slowly stood up from her seat in the fifth row, clutching a worn photograph and fighting back tears, everything was about to change. It was supposed to be another uplifting edition of audience interactions at Warner Brothers Studio. The Ellen DeGeneres show was featuring heartwarming stories from everyday people, with Ellen wearing her signature blue suit, creating those magical moments of human connection that had made her show a sanctuary for millions seeking hope. Emma Rodriguez sat quietly in the fifth row, wearing a simple black sweater and jeans, her long dark hair framing a face that carried the weight of someone much older than her 22 years. She had driven down from Bakersfield using her last paycheck from her job at a local diner, carrying with her a promise she'd made to her dying mother and a photograph that held the key to her family's missing piece. During the commercial break, Ellen had noticed Emma's intense focus and the way she kept looking at the old photograph in her hands. There was something about this young woman's careful composure that suggested she had come here with a specific mission, something that went far beyond wanting to meet a television host. Emma had been planning this trip for months, saving every dollar she could spare for this one chance to share her story. The audience interaction segment had been filled with Ellen's trademark magic, stories of new businesses, family celebrations, and dreams coming true. Ellen was in her element, moving between audience members with her natural gift for making everyone feel seen and heard. She had just finished celebrating a couple's 50th wedding anniversary when Emma raised her hand with quiet determination. "Ellen," Emma said, her voice steady despite the obvious emotion she was carrying. "May I tell you about a promise I made to my mother?" Ellen immediately sensed the gravity in Emma's tone and the way the audience members around her leaned in with concern and curiosity. "Of course, sweetheart. What promise did you make?" Emma stood up slowly, holding the photograph against her chest like a shield. "My mother died 6 months ago from cancer," she said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "And with her last breath, she made me promise to find my brother and tell him she never stopped loving him." The casual energy in the studio shifted dramatically as everyone realized they were about to hear something profound and heartbreaking. Ellen walked closer to Emma, her entertainer instincts immediately recognizing that this was no ordinary family story, but something that would require her full attention and compassion. "Emma, tell me about your brother." Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she held the photograph up for Ellen to see. "His name is Daniel Rodriguez, and he was taken away from us when I was 7, and he was 5, she said, her voice breaking slightly. "Child Protective Services said our mother couldn't take care of both of us, so they let her keep me, but they took Daniel and gave him to another family." Ellen stopped walking entirely, her hand going to her heart, as the full weight of what Emma was sharing hit her. The studio fell into complete silence. 300 people processing the tragedy of a family torn apart by circumstances beyond their control. "Oh, Emma," Ellen whispered, her voice carrying a pain that reached every corner of the studio. "My mother never got over losing him," Emma continued, tears now flowing freely down her face. "She spent 15 years wondering if he was okay, if he was happy, if he even remembered us. She used to light a candle for him every Sunday and pray that wherever he was, he knew she loved him." Ellen immediately signaled to her production team to give this conversation the space and time it needed. "Emma, what happened to your mother? Why couldn't she take care of both of you?" Ellen asked gently, understanding that there was likely more pain beneath this story. Emma wiped her eyes and looked directly at Ellen, with a courage that belied her young age. "My father left when Daniel was born," she said simply. "My mother was 19, alone, working 3 jobs to try to keep us fed and housed. When Daniel got sick with pneumonia, and she couldn't afford the hospital bills, that's when the social workers got involved. And they decided she could only keep one child?" Ellen asked, her voice filled with disbelief and sadness. Emma nodded, pulling the photograph closer to her chest. "They said it was temporary, that once she got back on her feet financially, Daniel could come home. But the adoptive family moved away, and we lost all contact." Ellen's expression grew increasingly pained as she understood the impossible choice this young mother had been forced to make. "Emma, show me that photograph you're holding," she said gently, moving closer to get a better look at what Emma had been clutching so tightly. Emma held up the faded photograph with trembling hands. "This is the last picture we have of Daniel," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He was 5 years old, and he was wearing his favorite Spider-Man shirt. My mother kept this by her bedside for 15 years, and she'd kiss it goodnight every single night." Ellen looked at the photograph and saw a beautiful little boy with dark hair and bright eyes, smiling at the camera with the innocence of a child who had no idea his world was about to change forever. "He's beautiful, Emma. He looks just like you." Ellen turned to address the studio audience, many of whom were now crying openly. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about a family separated by poverty and circumstance, and a dying mother's last wish to reconnect with the son she was forced to give up," Ellen said, her voice carrying the weight of the tragedy they were witnessing. "Emma has spent 6 months trying to fulfill her mother's dying wish, and she's here because she doesn't know where else to turn." Emma's voice grew stronger as she continued her story. "I've called every adoption agency in California," she said. "I've searched online databases. I've posted on social media. I've even hired a private investigator with money I didn't have. But the adoption was closed, and the records are sealed." Ellen made a decision that would define this moment and potentially change 2 lives forever. "Emma, what was your brother's full name, and when was he born?" she asked, already reaching for her phone to contact her research team. "I want to help you find Daniel, and I want to do it right here, right now." "Daniel Miguel Rodriguez, born March 8, 2002. Emma said immediately, as if she'd been waiting her whole life to share this information with someone who could help. "He was adopted through Catholic Family Services in Los Angeles on September 15th. Ellen was already making calls, her team scrambling to coordinate with adoption specialists and genealogy experts. Within 20 minutes, Ellen's team had made contact with adoption reunion specialists and legal experts who dealt with closed adoption cases. "Emma," Ellen said, her voice trembling with excitement, "we have some preliminary information. There are legal ways to search for Daniel, and we're going to pursue every single one of them." Ellen's genealogist called back with breakthrough information. "Emma, we found records of a Daniel Rodriguez who was adopted in 2007 and whose name was changed to Daniel Morrison," Ellen announced, reading from the information her team had gathered. "He's 17 years old now, and he lives in San Diego with his adoptive family." Emma's knees buckled, and Ellen immediately helped her sit down in a nearby chair. "He's alive," Emma whispered, as if she'd spent years not quite believing it was possible. "He's really alive. And you found him?" Ellen nodded, tears in her own eyes as she watched this young woman process the first real hope she'd had in months. "Emma, there's more," Ellen continued, consulting the notes her team had provided. "According to our research, Daniel has been searching for his birth family too. He registered with reunion websites on his 16th birthday, looking for any information about a sister named Emma Rodriguez." Emma broke down completely at this news, overwhelmed by the realization that she and Daniel had been looking for each other simultaneously. Ellen made another call, this time directly to the Morrison family. "Is this the Morrison household? I'm looking for Daniel Morrison, who was born Daniel Rodriguez," Ellen said when someone answered. After a brief conversation, Ellen put the call on speaker for the entire studio to hear. "Daniel, my name is Ellen DeGeneres, and I have someone here who has been looking for you for a very long time." "Is it Emma?" came a teenage voice through the phone, filled with emotion and hope. "Is my sister there?" The studio held its collective breath as Emma leaned toward the phone with tears streaming down her face. "Daniel, is it really you?" she whispered. "Emma." Daniel's voice came through clearly now, breaking with emotion. "I've been looking for you for years. Are you okay? Are you safe? Where's Mom?" The joy in his voice was immediately tempered by concern, and Emma's face crumpled as she realized she would have to deliver devastating news. "Daniel, I'm okay, and I'm so happy we found you," Emma said through her tears. "But I have to tell you something about Mom." The studio fell silent again, as everyone understood that this reunion came with heartbreak attached. "She passed away 6 months ago, but her last words were about you." The silence that followed was heartbreaking, filled with 15 years of separation, and now the permanence of loss. When Daniel finally spoke, his voice was thick with tears. "Did she still love me? Did she remember me?" Emma's answer came immediately, and with absolute certainty. She loved you every single day, Emma said firmly. She never stopped talking about you, never stopped hoping we'd find you. She saved every penny she could to hire investigators to look for you. Ellen watched this exchange with tears streaming down her face, understanding that she was witnessing both devastating loss and incredible love. Ellen took control of the conversation with gentle authority. Daniel, your sister Emma drove 6 hours to be here today because she made a promise to your mother to find you and tell you how much you were loved, she said. Would you like to meet her in person? I can have you here this afternoon. Yes, Daniel said immediately, his voice filled with desperate longing. I'll leave right now. I've been dreaming about this moment my whole life. Ellen looked at Emma, whose face was glowing with a joy that seemed to illuminate the entire studio, despite the underlying sadness of their mother's loss. 3 hours later, Daniel Morrison walked into Ellen's studio, and the reunion that followed was 15 years in the making. He was tall for 17, with the same dark hair and bright eyes that Emma had, looking exactly like the little boy in the photograph, but grown into a young man who carried himself with quiet strength. The moment Emma saw Daniel, she ran to him without hesitation, and their embrace was everything. Joy, grief, loss, hope, and love, all wrapped into one desperate hug that lasted several minutes. You're so tall, Emma whispered through her tears, and Daniel laughed despite his own crying. You look exactly like I remembered, just older. Ellen gave the siblings space for their reunion, but she had more surprises in store. Emma, Daniel, your mother may not be here to see this reunion, but I want to make sure you both understand something, she said as the cameras captured every moment. She never gave up on finding Daniel, and she raised you, Emma, to be the kind of person who would keep her promise no matter what. Ellen announced that her foundation would establish a scholarship fund in their mother's name for young people who had aged out of the foster care system. Your mother's love story with both of her children is going to help other families stay together, Ellen said with the determination that had made her beloved by millions. But Ellen had one final surprise for the reunited siblings. Daniel, I understand you've been living with a wonderful adoptive family who supported your search for Emma, she said. They're here today too, because family isn't just about blood, it's about love, and you've been blessed with love from multiple sources. The Morrisons, Daniel's adoptive parents, appeared on stage, and what followed was a beautiful merging of families rather than a competition for Daniel's loyalty. They embraced Emma immediately, thanking her for never giving up the search and welcoming her as an extended member of their family. The episode featuring Emma and Daniel's reunion became one of Ellen's most powerful and shared segments, not because of drama or spectacle, but because viewers witnessed the power of love to transcend time, separation, and even death. Ellen received thousands of letters from separated families, inspired to resume their own searches for lost relatives. 6 months later, Emma had moved to San Diego to be closer to Daniel while maintaining her relationship with his adoptive family. The siblings spent their first Christmas together in 15 years, visiting their mother's grave and telling her about their reunion. They brought the Spider-Man shirt from the photograph, now framed alongside pictures from their new life together. Ellen established the Rodriguez Family Promise Foundation, dedicated to helping families separated by the foster care system find each other. Emma became a volunteer advocate, using her experience to guide other siblings through the search process and the complex emotions of reunion after years of separation. Daniel graduated high school with Emma and his adoptive family cheering from the audience, then chose to attend college in Bakersfield to be closer to Emma while she finished her nursing degree. Their bond, tested by 15 years of separation, emerged stronger than ever, proving that some connections transcend time and circumstance. The lesson Emma and Daniel taught Ellen and millions of viewers was about the power of promises kept and love that endures even through loss. Their mother's dying wish became a bridge that connected not just two siblings, but an entire extended family committed to making sure no other children would be lost to each other unnecessarily. Ellen keeps the original photograph of 5-year-old Daniel on her desk, not as a reminder of a television moment, but as proof that some stories are worth waiting a lifetime to complete. Emma and Daniel's reunion reminded her that her show's greatest power wasn't in entertainment, but in creating space for families to heal, reconnect, and understand that love truly never dies. The worn photograph that Emma carried to Ellen's studio now sits in a place of honor in Daniel's dorm room, surrounded by new pictures of the family they've built together. It serves as a reminder that some promises are worth keeping no matter how long they take to fulfill, and that the most important reunions are worth waiting a lifetime to experience. Because that's what love looks like when it refuses to give up. That's what family sounds like when it finds its way back together. And that's what happens when a dying mother's final wish becomes a bridge that connects hearts across 15 years of separation, proving that some bonds are stronger than time, distance, or even death itself.